Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 34 of Floating Through Film. This week we start a new series on my pick, Dziga Vertov, which I'm excited to get into. But before I do that, let me introduce our other hosts here, Blake.
What's up?
And Luke.
Hi.
Okay, so we should just get it off at the beginning.
Is this take two?
Okay. Yeah, so this is take two, basically. Yeah. So yesterday we tried to record and our mic kept cutting out randomly.
We got through one of the movies,
Yes.
then we figured that out.
Yeah, and then I look back and I see it's not recording. We've been talking for like 20 minutes, probably a little longer.
Yeah.
But
so if we sound a bit apathetic for this first
whoa,
movie,
I'm so excited.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
always excited.
I mean, you know how some directors thought actors were only good on their 20th take.
Oh
like,
yeah, we're
you
being
maybe
Kubrick
we're
here.
Better. Yeah, we're Kubrick here, or David Fincher or something. But we only get better with each take. We only get better.
Yeah.
With
I like that
True.
optimism.
True.
I like that optimism.
Okay, but to get actually into the series Vertov, let me kind of just introduce about why I wanted to do, how I got to Vertov in the first place. Because I first did Chaplin, and I kind of at least want to go in a little bit order of my picks in chronological order as well. And so I was thinking, okay, who could I do after Chaplin? And I thought maybe doing kind of a brief survey on Soviet film history in like the 20s and 30s, the kind of stuff that I've at least watched a little bit of. And then when I started doing, reading more about it, I was like, oh, maybe it would just be interesting to talk about Eisenstein versus Vertov, their kind of differences. Yeah. And just narrow it down to that, for only 4 or 5 weeks. And then when I started doing, just reading more about Vertov, to be like, okay, first I'm going to read about Vertov, and then I'll read about Eisenstein, because I've already read about Eisenstein. Yeah. Start reading about Vertov, I'm like, okay, it just has to be a whole series on Vertov. I'm sorry, it's almost like, yeah, he deserves it, and I almost felt guilty for like knowing way more about Eisenstein than I did about Vertov to this point. So that's kind of how I arrived here, and but really what made me get to that point was reading a lot of his writings. He kind of, in a lot of ways, I feel closer to him than I do to Eisenstein. In terms of the stuff I agree with. And that's kind of, it's going to show more in our last episode when we talk about two directors that I think are more in the Vertov lineage than they are in the Eisenstein lineage. So, and this is kind of how I'm going to open up to you guys. And the reason for that is this whole concept of what is a documentary in film, right? I know both of you guys are definitely more open to the idea of what that can be more than most people. So, definitely. But in general, let me ask you two questions then. How do you guys think a normal person thinks what a documentary is or what it should be, and then what do you think it is? And either one of you guys can go. Do
you want me to go?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay. So what's the first? So what do I think other people think documentary?
Yeah. What is a general average person's view of a documentary?
Well, yeah, it's
supposed to do?
Generally it's like stuff they see in school on like just like giving you straight facts. Factual information is generally how people see it. Like nature documentaries, history documentaries. But what documentary it really is, and what I think it is, it's just filming the real world, because documentaries are biased, because if it's made by a person, it's going to be biased in some way. But yeah, I think and a movie I want to give a shout out to that does this, like, that kind of pushes the limits of what it is F for Fake. One of my favorite documentaries and one of my favorite movies in general, and that it literally is a documentary, but it's inherently biased and intentionally lying to you to prove a point. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. What about you, Blake?
Yeah. No, I mean a lot of what Luke said I agree with, especially of how people view documentaries, and at least in the States, like most people, if you ask them, do you like documentaries? They say, oh yeah, I like nature documentaries. I like stuff like that. I like social rights documentaries, talking about like politics, Vietnam, just politics, anything like that.
Some serious issue.
It's always from the lens of the Western world, though, as well, which is something that I'm excited to talk about with Vertov, because, like Luke said, everyone does have biases. Like, even if they don't think they do, they do. Yeah. Especially whenever they're talking about issues like we're going to get into with Vertov. Like, he's definitely biased towards his country because he has strong ideas. I mean, he was like in his early 20s making these movies that we're about to talk about.
I didn't even know that.
He's in his early 20s, and so like this is the time where he is as most passionate for sure about like where his country's going, and you can see that in his movies and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so documentaries to me is like, I don't know. It's like filming the real world, but I don't know. I
mean,
we're
gonna get into this.
It's hard.
I'm gonna definitely ask you guys this at the end if I can remember. So I want to see maybe if we think about what Vertov thought of what documentary was, or how we're gonna see what he thought about it through the course of his movies. Maybe we'll have a little better, clear opinion at the end, because I'm still very lost on what I think it is too. Obviously,
I mean, it's
because that's the thing. I think a lot of people they know what a documentary is, right? It's like it's almost one of the clearest things they have in their head. It's like a genre, just like, honestly, you could say this about most genres, where once you go into them, they're way more open than you initially think. But like, you know, when you think of a Western, you think of a certain thing. You know, people think of documentary, they think of a certain thing. And I think one thing I'm gonna you guys kind of hovered around it that I wanted to bring up was, I think a lot of people think of it as unbiased, right? And I know we've kind of mentioned this too, but they think documentaries should be unbiased, whereas like a normal piece of art or fiction has an author that has a point of view, right? A documentary shouldn't have that, and that's and that kind of leads me to Vertov here, because it's kind of why I've read that, and I'm going to mention this book a lot throughout the course of the series, so I'll kind of mention it up front. It's called Defining Dziga Vertov by Jeremy Hicks, and it's really good. He goes through all his movies and stuff, but he talks about how Vertov was, and especially a lot of Soviet documentaries, were hated for a long time in the West because they didn't have this, what a documentary should be, unbiased, right? They were biased right from the get-go. They knew they were biased.
They were commissioned by the government too.
Yes, they were speaking to a certain audience, the same way like a war film in the United States in the 1940s was speaking to a certain audience, like The Great Dictator. You know, like it's the same kind of thing, right? They are speaking to a certain audience, but that means to a certain Western audience, it already closed off that like they were just lying. You know, it was a documentary. They were just lying half the time. But Vertov never claimed to be telling an unbiased point of view. And that's what makes if you can kind of open your eyes to that, and obviously you guys already know that documentaries can be more than just unbiased things. So I think you guys are going to enjoy Vertov, but that's kind of what I was trying to get to, is you really have to have that kind of open view when getting into Vertov, or else you're always going to have that kind of, well, he's lying here, you know, like,
this is just propaganda.
Yeah,
so I
can
just write this off.
Exactly, exactly. But I mean, obviously, we're doing this podcast, so there's hopefully you don't have that points of view, but
hopefully not.
But who knows? Maybe you'll come out of this and you'll hate the Soviet Union even more. So. But no, I doubt it. But yeah, I think we should just get into the movies then. We'll start with Kino-Eye, 1924. And I kind of want to open Kino-Eye with actually Blake, because Blake has seen more of the Kino Pravdas. So Vertov did a newsreel series before he started making feature-length films. And that last series he did was called Kino Pravdas, with 24 of them?
23.
23 of them?
Yeah.
Okay, 23, yeah. So 23 of them. I've only seen a few. Blake has seen like over half?
I've seen 15 of the
15?
23.
Okay. So yeah, and now you've seen Kino-Eye, so how do you relate them? What do you think difference about them?
Well, first you actually told me this today, and I should have honestly looked this up whenever I was just watching through it. But Kino Pravda, like Pravda means truth in Russian, and that's a huge thing with what Vertov's like whole thing was of like filming. If you want to get more into that later, or like right now you can, but like his whole thing was like the camera can show truth better than anything else, basically. And like Kino Pravda, the reason I liked it so much is because like he literally thought the camera was going to replace newspapers, and it was a better way to do like newspapers, and to show you the actual truth of what the newspaper is trying to tell you. He's like taking out the middleman, basically, to just show you what's actually happening. And the newsreels are amazing, and I honestly think everyone should at least watch some of them, because like you can jump into any of them, honestly. Like they are linear, and that's one thing that is very different from like Kino Pravda to Kino-Eye, because Kino-Eye is not very linear. I mean, it's a little linear, but not like super linear. But Kino Pravda, like, it does follow just like a timeline, because he's just shooting this in order as he's commissioned, obviously. So, but my favorite thing about Kino Pravda and about Kino-Eye and all the ones we've watched so far is we in the West just don't get like actual footage of what the Soviet Union being formed was like, you know? We only get told about all the bad shit they did. About like how about like we get taught the Bolshevik Revolution, basically, and then nothing after that except the Soviet Union is bad until 1992, whenever the Iron Curtain fell. But like it's really it's a rewarding experience watching like actual footage from the Soviet Union, and like yes, you can say Dziga Vertov is biased in his opinion because he is, but I'd rather, like I said yesterday, I'd rather watch his biased version of this rather than someone from the West making an unbiased in quotation marks version of the Soviet Union, because I know that's not an unbiased version of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, they just have a different perspective.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
That's it. That's what unbiased is. A different perspective.
And it is really rewarding watching like actual footage of a country being born. Like it's a weird experience. Yes. It really is.
And that's because you mentioned at the beginning how Vertov was in his 20s making this. You know, just it's kind of just almost like a perfect confluence of events where you have like a young, basically just a poet looking for a kind of a medium to express himself. Yeah. You have the birth of a new medium in film, but then also the birth of a new country at the same time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you get Vertov trying to combine these things, you know, at the same time almost. You know, just almost his. And I think you kind of, at least from the Kino-Pravdas I've seen, and basically, I mean, just knowing Vertov in general, is even though they are just newsreels and they are linear, he's still trying to make them exciting. Yes. You know, he's still trying to make them energetic. Mm-hmm. And that's something throughout the course of all his movies. Like, he's definitely wanting to tell the truth. You know, he's definitely excited about that part, but he also just honestly just kind of a nerd about how cool it is. All the different stuff you can do with editing, all the different stuff you can do with.
Yeah, Kino-Eye just felt so playful.
Yes,
the whole time. Basically.
And honestly, that can kind of just lead us right into Kino-Eye. Because I thought you said Kino-Pravda. I was like, that leads us to Kino-Eye. Yeah, you actually said Kino-Eye. Yes, but that still leads us to Kino-Eye. So, Blake, what do you think about Kino-Eye? How do you think it's different than?
No, so like I said with Kino-Pravda, the main thing with like the differences in this one, I think, is like he does go. I mean, this one's still a little linear, but he does play with the formula a lot more. Like it's like he experiments with the newsreels this time. Like this is still like Kino-Eye is still kind of like a newsreel type movie, but he's doing something a lot more experimental with it than just a Kino-Pravda where he is just going linearly. Mm-hmm. Like he's trying. I don't want to say he's trying to make this like a movie, but he is. He's just experimenting with what he can do, you know. Mm-hmm. And that was why that was like the main difference in the two, to me at least. But
I mean, I want to mention how Jeremy Hicks and it's kind of just obvious watching through these movies is this movie is actually, I mean, obviously because it's a feature film, but this is kind of seen in his career as the shift towards more poetic. Like you're saying, more just non-linear, just not just straight newsreel, basically. You know, where he's actually starting to make it his own kind of language almost, right? And that's kind of why I wanted to start here too. Even though I thought about doing some of the Kino-Pravdas and stuff, but I just wanted to get all of it. That this is why I'm interested in, right? This part of his career. So, but Luke, what did you think of the movie overall before we jump in specifically?
I just really loved, the main thing I really was drawn to was just how like fun he was having with like the experimentation and what he could do with the camera. You know, I loved all the sequences in reverse, which we'll talk about, where he puts things in reverse, and also where he shows different stuff from different perspectives. Like it's just all very interesting in my opinion, especially with how early it was in film history. Yes. So.
I mean, honestly, we should we'll just jump right into it, at least with it would be almost impossible to go shot by shot because a lot of the shots are just interesting and kind of have their own, like we've been saying, documentary aspect to them where you could talk about them. So, I kind of just want to mention our favorites and we'll kind of maybe flow through it somewhat chronologically, even though the movie's not very chronological at all. So, but I love how the movie starts because at least the first third is, I think, my favorite, and it starts with the what are the young pioneers? It starts with the young pioneers, you know, what they're doing, and they like it kind of shows them as like. They're exciting as a movie themselves, you know, because Vertov is fighting against this whole, like, what most people when they were, honestly, just like now, but most people when they're going to the movies back then, they were expecting a play, you know, like a fictional world that they were going to see. And he wanted to be like, no, look, the everyday life is more exciting than what just filming a theater, you know? And so he's trying to combine just showing, you know, the life of a young pioneer and, like, why you would want to do it as a documentary, but also he's trying to make it almost narrative, you know, like almost like you're following the story of these young pioneers going through a town and getting prices and stuff.
Yeah, going through a town, getting prices, seeing like a Chinese magician, all that stuff. Just having fun, like being kids also.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Like it's he just does all that stuff.
Yes, that's more like at the end with their bath and everything. Taking a bath, the river before going home and stuff. Yeah. No, he's combining all that, right? But more what he's trying to say is like that's movie worthy.
Yeah.
You know, like basically life is movie worthy more than just something that's written on a script and filmed way apart from life, basically. And that's kind of what I love about the Young Pioneers, because we get a lot of both of that, and then it kind of shifts to the process behind what they're selling. You know, so like Luke kind of mentioned. Or maybe it was Blake, but we're going backwards in time. You know, he's doing things that only cinema can do in a certain sense. You know, just going backwards in time with a few shots, or just reversing the reversing the film basically. Yeah. So, because I know on our first take, Blake mentioned this is
the bull?
The bull scene.
Yeah, the bull scene. The bull scene is the one that happens first, for sure. Yeah. And that's the one where it like starts, where it's like he's literally like you said yesterday, he's wanting to show you the process of like where you're getting like your food basically, or like he just wants you to like know where it's coming from. He want like because you can know this stuff now. Yeah. With the advent of a camera, and he can actually show you it.
And the way he was like talking about the slides was just like he was just like having like. It was just like a funny way. He was talking about like, oh, I'm gonna put the skin back on, you know, like we're gonna like wheel them out, you know.
Life is back.
Life, they're back. They're back. It's just it is really weird seeing like.
It just has the single caption: "The bull comes back to life."
Yeah. But
it's really weird watching a bull get put back together. Obviously,
I will never forget it. It will stay in my mind.
No, and like. It's something that we should mention is like he doesn't shy away in this movie from showing like, or in the King of Providence either, from showing the downtrodden in the Soviet society. You know, like that's one of the reasons why the bull scene is important and why the bread scene later on is important, is because like these processes that they're doing and like how like Dany I think said yesterday, like people could see this like. Food processing as being a bad thing because of where it's going to lead eventually, like where we are now, basically, of like how we treat animals and stuff like that. Yeah. But at the time, like this is what they literally needed to do because their country was actually starving. Like so many people were actually dying and starving in the Soviet Union, and he doesn't shy away from showing that in multiple shots in all three of these movies. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, all three definitely, and that I think it's more emphasized in the later two in some degree. But yeah, even in this one, like you said, just like how. Because he was born in the 1890s in Russia. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So and it's more of a historical thing where like basically Russia's production, because of this change in their government, how rapid it happened. Like Vertov is in the very middle of that, towards the beginning. Yeah. Right. And so he kind of understood the old Russian world and what they were at least trying to build. You know, not all the way successful, obviously, but. Like just honestly, I don't know how he got there from this bull scene, but it is more just like just showing the process of what's behind this, right? And he's showing it to an audience that's never seen this before, for the most part, right? They're seeing all these images for the first time.
Yeah, if I was a person that my mind would be just like it's like the time the people saw the train in the theater.
Honestly,
like,
dude, yes.
Like it kind of paralleled that because like
it just that's at least that's what he's trying to get at, right? He's like he wants the world itself to be exciting through the cinema. That's what it can do, right? Honestly, just like the train. Like all those people have probably been to a train station before, and they've seen a train coming at them. But all of a sudden, if you put in a movie theater, for some reason, it feels cinematic, even though it's the same train, right? Yeah. And that's honestly that's the poetic kind of nature of film, at least in my opinion. Like it can make stuff like that exciting, or make you rethink about it anyway. Yeah. But Blake mentioned the magician scene. That's kind of the next thing I wanted to talk about in Kino-Eye, because. At least in my opinion, he's even kind of just showing a little sign of what film is itself. Because if you with one of the tricks the magician does, he's literally doing the two rings and then putting them together and then taking them apart. Like just how Vertov really saw what montage was, right? Two separate shots, putting them together, and you can take them. And then,
no, I didn't even think about that while watching it. Yeah, that's definitely
and
true.
he definitely was thinking about that for sure. Yeah, because. I mean that's what montage was. You know? That's what all these guys thought about so much. Yeah. Like what can you do with images when you put them together? You know. Yeah. So, and that magician will come back in his later movies. He's definitely a man with a movie camera. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, he'll definitely come back in his later movies. Maybe the same shots too. Because he loves that idea of the magician kind of like a filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean that's been around since Méliès. Obviously.
It's definitely man with a movie camera. It'll come back because
okay, good.
That's
and then Orson Welles will bring it back never fake. You know?
Yes, no, but honestly, a lot of filmmakers. That's why a lot of films love using magic or magicians.
I mean, like Méliès was literally a magician. Like
Fellini loved magic stuff. Okay, yes, no, there's definitely.
Oh, yeah, 8.5. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I can just name my favorite movies.
Yes, 8.5 scene.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. Honestly, yeah.
I can just name my favorite movies.
Let's go with me.
No, but that's why I love the magician scene too. Just with the rings too, because that's kind of how he saw because you'll see more with the man with the movie camera when he literally. Well, I'm pretty sure he's showing a magician's scene, but then he'll show the editor editing that scene. You know, but showing that same. That's what the editor does, right? They're taking 2 separate shots that don't even have to be connected. Like the kids laughing could be in a totally different place. The magician doing the trick. Yeah. But you just put them next together, and it looks like the kids are laughing at the magician. You know? Just stuff like that. And he's starting to get there. He's not all the way self-aware like that, but he's starting to get there. And you can kind of tell, like literally, like with that trick. But this it's honestly just a short while after that scene is probably my favorite moment in the movie. Is when it says it reads the young pioneer's diary, and he says something like, "If the clock would go backwards, the bread would return to the bakery." Oh yeah. And then it shows a clock of a shot of a clock, and then it shows some shots of bread, and then it shows the Kino-Eye continues the pioneer's thought. Yeah. And it shows the bread being made and like going backwards, like with the flour and everything. It's really cool too. No, it's a really great scene. Yes, it's a really great scene of like stop motion for sure.
We approve.
We approve. Yes, stop motion. Yes, with the bread, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because he shows the bread going back, literally walking back into the bakery and like building itself up.
Yes,
and then, bread powers.
Yeah. So he's just having fun with it.
Yeah,
you know?
When was the first stop motion even?
The first stop motion I've seen was a Max Linder movie in like 1912.
Okay.
It's probably been before that. I'm sure Méliès did some shit.
I was wondering if this was like one of the first.
I'm sure Méliès did something with stop motion. He had to.
That's a good question. I mean, and speaking of the train shot though, because that's, and you guys have to interrupt me too if you guys have shots or scenes you want to talk about, because I'm just kind of mentioning mine. But because this one, it's actually pretty shortly after this one is. Do you remember the shot of the train going over the camera?
Yes.
It's honestly,
I was wondering how they did that. Honestly, I was wondering a little bit how they did that.
No, I'll never.
Especially because those cameras have to be huge.
Yeah. I mean, like, they must have dug a hole.
They had to.
I don't know how. Yeah. See, that's why we need that shot for Man with the Movie Camera to show them filming that scene.
True.
Because the movie camera has a lot of shots like that where they're filming the guy filming the scene.
Yes. No, a couple that I had on mine was just like the elephant. I just like the elephant scene. Just because I just like elephants in movies. They're great. Yeah. But
I also love. I forgot the diver. Yes, it's kind of a brief scene, but just the diver diving in, just immediately going back to the platform. It's just. Yeah.
And I kind of want to mention this, and I didn't mention it. That's why take 2 is always better than take 1, because I forgot about it yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was going over some of my notes that from the Kino-Eye, at least from Vertov's writings that I've read, and he mentions in one of them that the first time he thought about basically what film could be was like I don't remember his exact age, but I think in his like early teens or something, and he remembers the first time he had to act for someone for a camera. And they told him he said he was on a 1 or 2 story building, and they told him to jump, and they said they were going to film his face, and then they were going to slow it down, and that made him think about what film could do, basically from a new angle, seeing someone's face, and that he said that's kind of what made him think about that for the first time. And then that diving scene, that's what reminded me of that. This diving scene is where he's showing all these different slow motion angles, like you see almost 4 different angles of them diving from that same spot. Just kind of like another example of what he was always thinking about what the camera could do, what does that mean for the audience, and not just putting the camera in one place. Even though I also like that too, but he was definitely the opposite of that.
Yes.
And the diving is definitely the slow motion, all of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I think it's in this one I think that you mentioned yesterday where he like changes your perspective just a little bit. Like he like does one thing and they like just does it from the side.
And that's the next thing I was going to mention is when he shows the street from above. Mm-hmm. And then he says the same place from a different angle. Yeah. Which is also an essay. I'm pretty sure he titled an essay he wrote with the same title, the same place from a different angle. Because that's basically, what he loves about the camera, right? What it can do, what the mechanical eye can do that a human eye can't. Yeah. You can just turn the camera a little bit and it gives you a whole different perspective on the same street. Let alone the initial perspective.
Well, it's still on there. It's still on there.
Yes.
Yeah, and I because like at least to me, whenever he like switches it to the other way, it's like. This is literally what birds like, like how birds flying through the air, like,
yes,
like I'm just damn.
No, it definitely makes me jealous of birds.
Yes.
Or drones, either one.
Drones.
Okay, I mean, okay, Mike, it's Michael Bay fan. All right, stop it.
The one other one that I had, just like the sequence. This sequence I think I mentioned yesterday also, but it's like the sequence of him like saying sleeping, and then it's like shows people sleeping, and then like the awakening, people waking up.
Yes.
And then like the awakening of a homeless person. Yeah, he'll come back to that. The awakening of a homeless person, the awakening of a cocaine addict, and then the eternal sleep, where it just shows like the funeral.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That funeral is honestly a brutal scene too. Like
Yeah,
it kind of
honestly,
it just comes up, and I will say about Kino-Eye, he does get more precise and like more precise is the best word I can use for his later films, because they all have the same kind of ideas, but like in some of his later movies coming up that we're gonna watch, like he comes more precise. And the reason I wanted to bring that up here is because that does feel out of place almost.
It does, yeah.
Because he's like going back and forth almost too much with the emotions a little bit, but I love how the scene is actually filmed with like because I think he says like a worker was murdered or something.
I think something, something
like that.
That was.
And then he shows like it's like almost like a Bresson scene where like after in Pickpocket where his mother just died, and they show the funeral, and it's just like a single shot of like almost 2 or 3 shots of them at the funeral.
Okay, yeah.
And they're all alone in the church.
Damn.
It's like a very similar where just like a single shot of the hand holding her kid, and then they show her face, and like there's not a lot of emotion though. And honestly, that's why like they're not directly related to me, but I see a lot of similarities between the two. Okay. And a lot of and I want to know if Bresson knew about it. Okay. I'll have to learn more about that.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
Okay, but to get back to Kino-Eye, just to maybe close out Kino-Eye, I want to mention maybe my favorite shot in the movie is the end, the very last scene, is where and this is more showing with kind of Vertov's belief in just what technology could bring to the old world kind of thing, and it kind of hints at how he thought about the power of sound, not just sight, is this last scene where we see a microphone for a radio station, and then we see a guy play the violin for it, and then he cuts to an old lady listening to the radio, and then he cuts to a girl looking at her mother listening to the radio while she listens also, and that's how the movie ends. And it's just so perfect, because it's just perfect, like because it works on a literal sense, like a girl is actually watching her mother listen to a radio on a violin for the first time. But
it's also just hilarious because it gets to like Luke's playful thing about this whole movie, because it's like, well, like the violin playing, and then like the grandma or whatever, the old lady listening to it, she's like baffled. She's like, she's like that, and then the girl's just like looking at her with a big smile on her face. I was like, this is hilarious.
That's me, like when I'm like showing someone one of my favorite movies, I'm just like looking at the reaction.
Yeah.
Honestly,
that's you showing us La Dolce Vita, and we're like,
okay. Let's not discuss that again.
No, yeah, we all like the movie. Because you said yesterday that Vertov, he was the one that knew what sound was going to do for cinema, obviously, and like whereas someone like Eisenstein and even Chaplin were a little like against stuff like that, you know.
Yes. But they were more hesitant to it of what it could be. But
they thought it would like ruin the medium or something.
Mm-hmm. And we're definitely going to see that with...
We'll just enhance it. But.
That's why I'm really excited to talk about Enthusiasm and 3 Songs of Lenin, which we'll get to in a couple weeks, because those are just sound films, and we'll see, like, I mean, one of them literally has a song in it, you know, and Enthusiasm is, like, all about sound to some degree. Not all about, but a lot of it is. It's almost like some of these early movies just with sound added. Damn. But the documentary aspect was sound, too, right? So the actual sounds of mechanical noises and stuff. No, I'm really excited to talk about those, but we'll get to these other 2 movies that I'm excited to talk about.
Ones that we haven't talked about yet.
And that's kind of why, the reason why we're doing 3 movies this week, and I wanted to, is because I felt like we definitely had to do Kino-Eye, because especially Blake has seen a lot of Kino Pravdas, and it's almost like an extension of those to some degree. But then we had to group these 2. Because they almost, to me, feel like the same movie. You know, like one of them, the city view, and then one of them, what's outside the.
I literally get like I get images from both of these mixed up. So,
yes, and he definitely reuses some too. So. But we'll start with the more in the city one, which is Stride Soviet, which came first. What do you guys think about Stride Soviet? What's like overall thoughts? What stands out to you?
Honestly, the most memorable part of this movie for me, because it's kind of hard to talk about the movie as a whole, because I don't really know like my exact thoughts on it. I kind of it's just something I have to like probably rewatch before. But I especially love the factory scenes when like just showing is that this movie where they show a bunch of factory scenes. I just really like all the mechanical and like stuff about the factory. It's just so like I don't know with the score and stuff. It's kind of like Man with a Movie Camera. It's just the way it juxtaposes with the score. It's just
like
the rhythm,
really
yeah.
rhythm to it,
I just love that most about it. But yeah, I mean, I think, as we said, him filming the Soviet Union at this time was just interesting.
Yes.
That's the main thing I took away from it.
It is kind of like a history lesson a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, from the direct source.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What about you, Blake? Soviet in general?
No, yeah, I really like Stride Soviet also. And I really like both. I think I do prefer A Sixth Part of the World slightly more, just because it does talk more so about like their not like his opinions on like capital and like what capital is like doing to the world basically. But I do love like Stride Soviet because it is like two sides of the same coin, where he's showing like capital in one movie, and then this movie he's showing like the answer to capital basically, or like their answer to capital. Yeah, there's a better way to put it.
Yes.
And it's just honestly awesome watching. I mean, this is definitely a movie people would consider like a biased movie, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Because he's literally showing the Soviet pride of like trying to like help your fellow man, and, like give them free stuff, like give them farming.
But then he'll still show like starving children and stuff.
Exactly.
Too.
He'll still show all that stuff about like the starving children. But I think in this, was that in Kino-Eye or in this one where he shows the starving children and it was like old Soviet Union or something like that?
I'm pretty sure it's in this one.
I thought it was in this one too.
One of the challenges that Vertov would have for trying to make documentaries the way he did was why most people were attracted to just the narrative form of storytelling is because it's straightforward, right? You don't have to think about the structure that much because the narrative is the structure, right? It's telling you there has to be a certain logic to it. Yeah. So, but if you're saying, okay, I'm going to take that out, you have to replace it with something. And what Vertov does in this movie especially is, and Jeremy Hicks points this out, which made me think of it, is he uses the from-to structure, like you were saying. So he uses a shot of a starving person, just a single one, and he'll say from, and that represents all the old world. And then he'll say to, and then he'll show machine or something, and that represents new world. Just from to, it made you think of an old world and new world just from two single shots, right? And just the intertitle, and that's because I know initially, Blake, you said you had watched it without the intertitles.
No, I think Luke and I both watched it without the intertitles first. And you can still tell that this is the one that's showing that Soviet pride. You can still tell that, but like the intertitles definitely help with the process,
especially since he also was one of the first people to really think about the creativity of using the intertitles.
Yeah,
you know, like
sure.
That
starts with Kino Pravda.
Exactly.
Yeah, it starts with Kino Pravda with that. Yeah.
No, but in all of his intertitles, he's like, "Oh, if I have to use them, I'm going to."
If I have to use them, I'm gonna make them count.
I'm gonna be a smartass sometimes.
I'm gonna be a smartass sometimes.
But yeah, okay. I wanted to mention before we get into the actual movie, Jeremy Hicks also points this out in his book that the subtitle for this movie, so it was called Forward Soviet or Stride Soviet, I guess depending on how you translate that word. But the subtitle was The Moscow Soviet in the Present, Past, and Future, Forward Soviet. And that's what you're saying, right? That's what literally makes the from to. So, because he's saying he's showing in the past, and then he's trying to show what it's showing now.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to mention this earlier. I think on our take one, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it now, is it's kind of interesting where, especially in his later movies, you'll start to see the tension he has with the Soviet Union, just like a lot of filmmakers start to have with their countries, especially earlier when they're making national cinema, is this kind of tension of what they want you to show and what you want to show, right? And so it does feel like to some degree Vertov is also trying to get away with showing this is still the Soviet Union now, this starving person.
Yes, because the starving person is what I'm filming now.
Exactly. But then if he puts the from, it still at least makes it be like, oh, see, that's the old world. Yeah. He's not saying that's us now, even though he is kind of still showing that as now.
Yeah.
Even though he, at the end of the day, he still is pro-Soviet and he still believes in the cause. It's just that maybe it's his way, to get away with showing this is still the truth now as well. Just by covering up.
This is like honestly, it's not even this is still the truth now, but it's like this is what we're trying to eradicate also.
Yes, exactly.
And that's a huge part of like why he shows that too, because he does believe that they're going to find the process to like feed their entire country, and that's like one reason why I like Stride Soviet so much, especially like the linen breaker scene with like the just that big ass ice breaking ship.
Okay,
because it's like the linen breaker comes through paving the way for the ice, so our freighters can start trading and stuff like that.
Because all of it has two meanings, right?
Yes.
It's literally a cool shot of this is what the Soviet Union is doing, and it has a huge ship going through ice.
Yes.
But it also stands for something else.
It also stands for linen, literally breaking breaking the way, breaking new ground, paving the way for the workers.
That's what a true poetic kind of the structure does, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to have multiple layers to it, kind of thing. At least that's one aspect to it, anyway. And I love that you brought that scene up specifically because I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to use for the picture of for YouTube. I'm glad because
it's a great one.
Even though there are so many images getting thrown at you, there are very certain moments memorable, and that's kind of how. Honestly, we should talk about the whole series. Just what sticks out to you. We don't have to go in order, but is there anything that sticks out to you, Luke, from Stride Soviet?
I mean, I kind of mentioned it with all the
just the factory shots.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to specifically say stuff because again, it just
all the factory stuff is also insane because I think in this one he is showing the process of going from manual workers to what machines are going to help the process, because I'm pretty sure in this one it also has the scene of the workers literally building the road by in the mud because by placing those logs and just using the sledgehammer to do that, and then he shows the next scene of a machine being able to do that and actually help the process, because he also shows this is a scene that I'll never forget because I remember watching it and I was like, I've literally never thought about this before. But nowadays we have bulldozers to excavate and take away mountains of hills, like mountains of dirt. But in Stride Soviet, we see just literal planks on there's planks on the side of a mountain, and there are just people digging with shovels and throwing the shit out. And then he shows a scene of a bulldozer after that, so it's of something to help the process. I don't think it's a bulldozer yet, but something to help the process. And it's I literally never thought about that. That's how people used to have to excavate. It was literally just having hundreds of people shoveling at a mountain until they get it down to just flat surface.
I mean, this is kind of related, but I mean, it's still is kind of related. It made me think of this while you were saying that is. The more you learn about how construction was done in the past, it's almost more insane when I think about the pyramids.
Yeah, I was about to say the pyramids,
because that's what most people think of. I feel when you're how did they fucking do this?
Yeah, or the Great Wall of China too.
I think that I still
Yes.
Can people even do that today? Do you think pyramid
It'd be hard. Yeah. Even today it'd be hard.
Plus, the amount of money it would take. How are you going to justify that on your ROI?
On your ROI. The return on investment. It's my tomb. That's what other return do I need?
Honestly, that's how it was back in the day.
Yeah.
But okay, get back to Stride Soviet.
Pyramids are cool.
Okay, well, I love how you mentioned I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's kind of just the vibes of machines, just the kind of mood of machines.
It's just so cool. I don't know
the rhythm of them, because enthusiasm honestly takes that to a new level.
I can't wait.
Yes,
for that,
honestly. I'm excited to watch that.
But
I know you watched Strike this week too.
I do.
And that kind of has that same feeling.
Honestly,
right?
Because it's literally
right?
workers.
Yes.
And just the fast pace and frenetic nature of it.
Yes, that frenetic nature, cool. Yeah. Because machines, when you're in a factory or when you think of one, you think of that frenetic nature just naturally.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of just what Vertov's doing.
Are all the scores in these movies, by the way? Are these the official scores or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Were these played with live audiences or?
They did play with scores and stuff too.
Okay.
He was known for at least trying to get people to play the music he would want and stuff, but it was all hit or miss back in the day like that.
Well, the scores were fire. I watched.
Was it the Michael Nyman?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have no clue what.
I'm pretty sure it was.
If it's the one that's on Canopy, it's that one.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. So.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Because there are a few different scores. People have scored his movies throughout the time. You can find on YouTube a few different ones.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, but I'll speak of a few kind of just maybe the main theme, even more than just machines itself, is just kind of this progress of industry, through machines, and that's kind of what he's getting at in different ways. And one of the key, at least moments in my opinion, is the electricity. When he shows the electricity, the lights turning on, and it has a shot he uses in both of these movies. And I wanted to see if you recognize this shot because it reminds me of an Ozu shot when he shows the light bulb in the doorway.
I can't remember.
I'll have to show it to you.
Okay, yeah.
But it's because he shows it in both Sixth Part of the World and Stride Sophia, where you see the light slowly turn on, but it's hanging from the ceiling. It's like, damn, this would fit exactly in just like a.
It sounds like kind of like an Ozu shot.
Yeah,
so.
it's like okay, I'll find it for you later.
Okay, yeah, I need it. I don't know how to.
No, but it's more just like I love because he loves lights too. You know,
yes.
he like loves filming all this stuff about this.
Is this the one where like it literally lights up the entire city and he's filming it? Is that Stride Sophia or is that a Sixth Part of the World? I couldn't remember.
Lights up the whole city.
Because like he's literally filming it and it's like Lennon promised lights or something like that, and then it's like. And then like something that happened is like we fulfill the promise or something, and like all the lights turn on in the city, and he's just like filming from far away, and then the city's just like lit up.
Yes, it is this one. It's because they initially show Lennon's funeral.
Yeah.
And then he says,
okay, I was gonna ask you if that was this one as well.
Every single piece of equipment, every single machine continues Lennon's work.
Yes.
And that's when he shows all that.
Yeah, because like I love that scene of him just showing the city, like shooting the city, like literally just completely aglow, and I was like, damn.
No, because I thought you were talking about my favorite scene in the movie, and I'll just go to it now. Is when once again I love these shots from above the city, you know, kind of just his kind of like God's eye POV shots. Yeah. But because in Man with the Movie Camera has a honestly, I'll just save it when we talk about it then, but it has a really good showing the camera getting that shot.
Yes, dude.
It's like it's honestly the more I think like just thinking about these shots. Just makes me excited for what we're gonna watch.
Yeah, like he's building upon his ideas in every movie.
And the thing is, he's using a lot of the same images.
Yeah.
Or very similar images, so he's kind of building ideas based on the same images, you know, which is really cool. But I got distracted from mentioning my favorite scene in this movie is when it says he shows that shot from above with the crowded street at the probably morning, and then the caption says, "Where are you off to in such a hurry?" Because I'm pretty sure it's this one he's been using the quote you thing over and over again, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
No, actually, no, it's in Sixth Part of the World.
Is that in Sixth Part of the World?
Yeah, it's in Sixth Part of the World. I can see this thing. I will get these confused talking about them because they feel like one movie to me. Just part one and part two almost. But in this one, I do know he says like, "Where are you off to in such a hurry?" And then he shows and it says to church, and they show a church, and it says to night school, and they show night school, and then to a workers club, and they show basically all these stuffs you can do in the city that, you know, in Russia 30 years ago probably wasn't even possible, you know, for a lot of times, especially for most people. Like, and what's specific about Vertov is he's saying this is true for the average worker. You know, all these activities you have in the city that you didn't used to have, right? He's very excited about that, and he's showing it through film, right?
Are you sure that's not Sixth Part of the World?
No, it's Stride Sophia. Is
it?
No,
okay.
Yeah. No, because I wrote it down. Yeah, because it has my favorite quote that I put in my letterboxd, where he says the evening is full of contrasts.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's what a film can do, right? It can take you to those contrasts all of a sudden, just basically showing it as. Like he's trying to do, it's a part of a complete whole, the Soviet Union, all of these contrasts, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and then he shows people dancing, and he shows a gun being loaded, like people ice skating, like basically all the stuff you can do in the city.
Yep.
You can reload your gun.
Yeah.
So I just sounds funny.
And you did mention the other one with the light bulb, and then the last one I kind of want to mention was the library, where he shows all the books in the library, and then he shows the women reading and everyone workers reading and stuff. Just, you know, kind of just encouraging all these different aspects of the Soviet Union that they were trying to encourage anyway.
Well, they were encouraging literacy, yes.
Yes, literacy, yes. Yeah, something that would be
Is this the one that ends with like the plants and more plants, or is that Sixth Part of the World?
That's Sixth Part of the World.
Okay.
Yes, because that's my favorite ending.
Yeah, no, I love that ending so much. Okay.
Honestly, I love all the endings. But,
for sure.
Oh yeah, honestly, let's go to Sixth Part of the World, Part 2, basically for me.
Sure. That's true. That's true.
I will say before we start this, Jeremy Hicks put a good little outline of what this movie is in 6 parts. He writes it in, and it'll kind of help us frame and I want to know what you guys think about this. So he says the first part is about capitalism is based on inequality and oppression. He shows that, and then it goes to part 2. By contrast, the Soviet Union, they are the rulers of their own land. And you know how he says that over, this is your land kind of thing.
Yes.
And then he says, part 3 is they produce a great variety of goods from their land. And then he shows the goods. They export these goods by all these different kind of means. Then part 5, even the traditional Sami, I think that's how you say it, they produce certain things that can be exported. First. And then part 6 is, even though there are many types of backward or he says backward. I don't know how you would say it better, but he says backward. There are many different types of backward people in the USSR. They're still trying to help us build towards
Yes.
towards the greater good kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. We're all working together.
And that's the thing. And I wanted to say that because it made me think of it in my head, like, okay, that made the ideas a little more clear. But he points this out right after pointing out the outline. He says, "Put like this film's highly structured argument becomes evident, but it seems less interesting." Right? And it does seem, because it seems more like I'm just describing a documentary.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's only half the point. Maybe only 1/5 of the point. A lot of people could do that, just like in writing. And it'd be like, oh, that's true. Like, okay. But that's not the point of the movie.
It doesn't leave anything.
Yeah, but like it doesn't. Yeah, but like just writing down capital leaves out like watching all these smarmy capitalists like looking around dancing while they're dancing and shit like that while it's cut with like slaves working in the fields and stuff like that and slave masters whipping them.
Oh yes, and the quote at the end of just jumping to the movie at the Capitol, which is that first part. Because it's almost weird, you're like, because he doesn't say the capital at the beginning. It's like, is he just showing the Soviet Union like this or something? Yeah. And then he says it's like capital, and then you're like, okay, he's calling them out kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it's my favorite quote because it basically applies to a lot of America today too. Is on the brink of historical downfall, capital celebrates.
Yep.
And then it shows the dancing increase too. It's like, oh yes, of course, yep. No, it's just so true. Even
it's just literally like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Literally.
Honestly, yes. Yep.
Well,
okay, that's
Dan, take a drink of water.
Yeah, no one else wanted to say anything.
I didn't know what to say.
We were waiting for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Direct us.
No, but what do you guys think of? I know Blake said you like it more.
Yes. Honestly, me too.
No, I liked it more because it shows the process of the Soviet Union and like their process of trying to become self-sufficient. Like Stride Soviet is all about them like helping each other and trying to like help the greater good and like trying to build up their infrastructure. This one's literally about them like trying to control the means of all their production and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's how they're gonna fight capital. Is like the only way to fight capital is for the worker to control every mean of like all the means of production and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's like it's stuff that hits home because that's literally what we're living now. Like now workers don't have power and we're always the ones that get like run over. And that's what in this movie and what the Soviet Union, even though they failed, like they understood that, and that's why I love the ending of this. We'll get to it eventually, but that's why I love the ending is because even though they failed, they are still that symbol that we can all look back towards of like how like this can happen, like we can do it. Yes. They did fail, but like it can happen.
Or if
and we can make it better, honestly too. Yes. So
I mean that is the thing, and not to get too off topic, but technology has gotten better.
Yes.
Like. A lot of, honestly, Vertov might have a heart attack if he saw the technology we have today.
Yeah.
But then the way it's being used and for the purposes it's being used is like almost exact opposite of what you would think if it was invented for a lot of things. So it's almost nice to see not only were they celebrating technology, but they were celebrating for the right reasons. Yeah. So we could feed the poor, so we could give back the land to the people that it belongs to, that kind of thing, right? And like you said, like the ending is sad and happy at the same time because it is depressing that we see what happened today. But okay, to get more directly into the movie, we already kind of talked about the Capitol scene, and this is where we really get to the good stuff. And I think why I like it better is I just like the idea of going out to the rest of the because Jeremy Hicks kind of mentions how the first part of the movie, I'm even now describing it as a single movie, but Stride Soviet is kind of just a microcosm of the Soviet Union from Moscow. Yeah. And then the sixth part of the world is the exact opposite. Yeah. It's like trying to show all of the Soviet Union.
Yeah. And I feel like
by going to the very edges, even from from the edge of the sea or the Chinese.
He literally says from Caucasus Mountains.
Yes.
Like all that, all like literally go all over.
I think I really appreciate about this one is that they just went into the wild, because I feel like in all like the Soviet movies or whatever, like especially this time, like they're just only in the city. I feel like.
Yeah.
But we actually get to see nature, like the beauty of like the
we
wilderness.
get to see the taiga in this one.
Yeah.
Siberia and all that. We get to see all that stuff in this one.
I mean, you can see why Blake. Have you seen Kurosawa?
I have not.
Yes.
You'll see why Blake loves that movie. Like Kurosawa filming this area is amazing.
Because that was also commissioned by Russia, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, it was. Yep.
Shout out Russia, bro.
Shout out Russia, bro.
No, because the way he introduces this too is like Vertov is always working on multiple levels. He introduces sheep bathing in the ocean. And he says, I'm pretty sure this is a play on words because he says you,
yes,
bathing sheep. in the ocean, like we are the sheep.
Yes.
And then the next shot is people.
Us bathing sheep in the ocean. Yes.
Yes. The next shot is people bathing. People bathing the sheep, and he says you bathing the sheep in the ocean. Yeah. You know, and it's almost like he's showing the progress of what you are.
Yeah.
Just from 2 different shots, and it's honestly just amazing. But then he shows like all the different stuff really in rapid pace, like the different tribes there and the different cultures. Yes. I'll name just a few, like the Tartars, the Buryats, the Uzbeks, the Kalmyks, I don't know if I'm saying these right, but the Caucasus, the Komi. Those are a few that I didn't mention. I didn't write them all down because he's going pretty fast.
He went really fast through those, yeah.
No, it's cool, like, because that's what I was saying, like, the first part is, just Moscow. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like just the opposite, almost the exact opposite of Moscow. He's showing all these different places.
Yeah, and it's like what you've been saying this whole time is like, or like maybe not what you've been saying this whole time, but like he's literally shooting like real life locations and stuff like that. Like he's literally going out on location and shooting, and that stuff just didn't happen that much. Even in America and all that, like Chaz and all that, they had their studios. Like they didn't go out on location to shoot. Like it must have been so fucking cold to shoot shoot that guy walking through the like snow in his snowshoes and stuff like that.
Did Eisenstein shoot on location? Or
I don't know.
He did make a movie in like the unfinished movie like Quay, Mexico. I'm sure you've seen it.
Okay, I think I've seen that. Yeah, on their post.
I'm pretty sure that was shot on.
Was Battleship Potemkin or Strike filmed on?
Yeah, those are. That's why. That was take one. I'll mention that now. We kind of got into it, but like one of the key differences between Vertov and Eisenstein, and what Vertov didn't like about Eisenstein was that, especially with Strike and Potemkin, which is what made me think of it, was he didn't like how Eisenstein was using this kind of documentary style, of showing a real boat, showing a real factory, the same way Vertov was. Yeah. But then using it for fictional methods, to tell a story. Yeah. He thought it was kind of cheating both ways. He's like, you could tell he kind of doesn't like fiction films in general, but he's like, I'm okay with them making it, but if they're gonna make it, just make it in a studio, leave it all fake. Just make it in a studio. That's basically what he says. Like, leave it all fake. Don't cheat the documentary by making it fake. Okay. And I think you mentioned this on take one, the never released episode. Yeah. But, unreleased episode. You said you think you agree with Eisenstein more than Vertov.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah. I was about to say something. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't say like a complete I'm like full with Eisenstein because I get what Vertov's coming from. I think movies can be made like how he doesn't think movies can be made.
I think Vertov just thinks like Danny said earlier, real life is just more interesting than fiction.
Yes,
and we can film real life in a more interesting way.
Especially for the camera.
So, yeah.
For the camera specifically, like a writing, it still might be better to write something fictional.
Yeah.
But the camera is by nature recording something that's quote unquote true.
Yes.
That's what a camera is. It's also supposed to be. It's in the real world, recording something else in the real world, theoretically. So that's why animation's kind of that's why it's its own. It should be its own art form almost.
It is.
It is film, but not film because it's.
Animation is definitely its own art form.
Yes, it is. But that's almost a separate topic.
It is, yes.
But it's kind of not because Vertov loved using at least stop motion animation, and it's actually in this movie I think when we see real animation too.
Yes, no, this is the one where
it's that guy. What's that? The boy.
Yeah, it's the shadow boy or the shadow guy and boy. Yeah, because I remember that scene too.
No, it's a cool little animation.
It is.
Okay, but to mention at least, I wanted to mention one part that you guys remembered and it made me think of kind of why I love this movie more, maybe of these three the most. Is I mentioned Strike Soviet and I got it wrong. It was actually this movie where he keeps using the U. Form to be like.
Yeah, it makes sense because the U bathing sheep in the.
Yes, and that's where he keeps using that because he's trying to show, and it's almost like impossible in our kind of political climate in America to think of this because like you're basically on one side or the other in politics a lot, but like at this time he's basically trying to say everyone in the Soviet Union is the same on the same side kind of thing. Like even this person over here, this person over here, this person doing this thing, it's all you, right? It's all it's the Soviet Union, right? Yeah. And one really good example for that for me is the when he shows the people eating reindeer meat, raw reindeer meat.
Raw reindeer.
And he's like, he's just showing it just like it's any other thing, even though it is kind of weird, it's crazy. Yeah. What I wrote down in my notes is it's almost non-judgmental.
It is.
Every shot he's trying to show is just exciting. He's trying to show it as this perspective of that's you too, right? So don't hate.
We're all fighting for the same thing.
Yes, exactly. And I love just And they at the same time showing people eating raw reindeer meat.
Showing people eating raw reindeer meat and people in the audience. You know?
Yeah.
That was a great shot.
Because the bathing sheep comes back. That's the shot they're watching.
That's the shot they're watching. Yeah.
Yep. But what else do you guys think of? Because I could just keep going, but
honestly, my favorite part of the movie was is like the shot of these hunters trying to snipe a ferret or whatever out of the tree, and then like I forgot why, I don't know why, I understand why they ran away from it, and then it showed like a ferret like just eating like a shoe or something in the snow, and I was like, damn, this is hilarious.
This is hilarious.
That's hilarious. The shooter, the like hunters like doing this weird like jumping up and down,
and they just run away. I'm like, what? And then it just shows. I just love the shots of the animals, to be honest. And there's one shot, I think it was before that, where it's like a pack of like some animal, like a huge pack, like a huge like stampede.
That's a reindeer, probably.
Is it reindeer?
Yeah,
okay,
probably,
yeah. I mean,
no, because he does show some reindeer.
No, he shows a lot of reindeer. He shows a lot of reindeer.
Honestly, I love this movie. And then Marker would, homage that when he tried to sell us reindeers.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
But
we tried to sell us reindeers.
Vertov was advertising it, and then
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and then Marker's the salesman. Anyway, let's get back to it.
No, but you mentioned the audience shot a little earlier. It did. It relates to that you thing directly too, because there's one of my favorite, at least, quotes from the intertitles is, "You, master of the Soviet lands, in your hands the sixth part of the world." Because people called Russia the sixth part of the world. In your hands, sixth part of the world. And then he shows from scenes of the actual places he's showing to the audience clapping to that.
Yeah.
Right, saying they're the same thing, right? It's all you at the end of the day, and he's already showing that with the audience as well. And then this is basically unrelated, but it meant about the animals that you were mentioning is one of my favorite shots with the animals is when he does the from the golden eagle on the arm of the Kurshka. I don't know how to say it. Yeah, but it's one of those. I guess it's on one side to the eider on the cliffs of the Arctic Ocean. And he shows the animals of both. Yeah, basically showing from one side to the other. Even the animals are part of this kind of thing. Yeah. And maybe that's probably another reason why I like it so much, more than not a lot more than Stride Sophia. That's maybe another reason. Just the animals in general.
It's a cheat code, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
Especially with silent films, there's something about it. I don't know.
And what else did I mention? I mean, we got through most of the stuff I liked.
Yeah.
I will say one of my favorite shots in this, I'm probably going to use it for the picture in a sixth part of the world, is there's because you mentioned with the fact how he does the he'll show the old digging for the old, and then he shows the bulldozer for the new. He does a similar thing in this one with the tractors.
Yes.
Where he shows the people having to do or the animals. Like the cow dragging
the ox
it,
and stuff.
The oxen dragging it, and then he shows the tractor doing it way faster. But he shows them both at the same time, almost like they're still doing the same for the same cause.
Yes.
He even uses like a triple shot, where there's 3 shots going on at the same time, of like a pig on the bottom, and then a woman working, and then a tractor on the third part of the screen, all doing for the same cause, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just he's thinking of all these different ways to show this kind of basically this idea of this is what you are, the Soviet Union.
This is what we're striving for.
We're trying to be in this anyway. Yes, that's the point. Yeah.
And like this is why people would obviously say this is biased, but at the same time, this is literally the ideals he believed in, and a lot of people in the Soviet Union believed in. That's where it gets tricky. It's where it gets tricky.
And it's an early country, right? That's why it's interesting as the birth of a country.
Yes.
Like, America's existed for 270 years. It's not the birth anymore, so it's hard to see it as a fresh ideal versus. How people thought of America in 1776, where it was all ideals. And that's why it's different. It's interesting with film being there for that.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah. No, it's such an interesting time period in silent film history and just in history in general for sure. Yeah. Because my favorite part, I guess we're winding up is I literally love the ending just brings the entire thing together. The ending quote just plants and more plants, and then him just saying I see. That we want to produce not only calico, but the machines need to produce calico. We want to produce not only tractors, but the machines need to produce tractors. We build in our country a complete socialist society. We are a hub for the workers of the West, a hub for the people of the East, who stand up to fight against the yoke of the capital. Yeah. And that's literally the entire point of this movie. The entire point of the Soviet Union is that. And even though, this is what I was getting to earlier, even though they failed, they still are... that ideal that people can still look to of what we can do of like what entire country of people believing in, like, at least like most of them believing in the same ideals can do. You know, like this is what they can do. They can change. They can make changes.
Yeah. And that's why this ending is so special too, is because I think you mentioned the oppressed countries line, right? He does say that.
Yeah. Oh, he does say that at the very end. I didn't mention that part. But yes, he does say that.
He does show.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to stop here too.
Yeah.
Right. He shows literally. I'm pretty sure there's soldiers in China, and this is. I mean, like you said, it was a symbol to countries. It was a symbol to Cuba and China. All these.
It was. Yes.
Especially China. You know, like being right next door, kind of, but it was. You know, it was the first country, at least on a major scale, to be like that. To basically think of a new ideal that wasn't based on capital, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and the way it's shown with these kind of it gets more rapid pace through. Like,
it does.
The montage gets more faster paced with different shots of people, machines, and it kind of just ends with just machines. I'm pretty sure, like just closer shots of machines, just showing like.
This is what we're trying to get to, basically.
Yes,
yeah, we're trying to control the means of production, so that we don't have to be like. Yeah.
And the last line is, they will pour forth. The other countries, they will pour forth into the stream of the United Socialist economy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's ending. It's not even supposed to start with the sixth part. It's not even supposed to stop with the sixth part of the world. Right? It's supposed to be the whole world eventually.
Yes.
You know, and that's, and I wrote in my notes. It's depressing to a certain degree too, because you're watching it with knowing 100 years later what's going to happen. At least to some. I don't know all the history, obviously, about exactly what happened, but I know how we live in a capitalist world, basically.
Yes.
So. Absolutely. Like, he would be depressed to see how
he
it
would
would
definitely
out,
be depressed.
but it's almost like inspiring at least to see that kind of hope, especially today we don't see that much in our films like that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Almost like you can't even have that much hope in your film or just sound like lying, You can't
for sure. You sound like you're trying to be edgy.
And stuff. No. So before we go to our next week, which is the 11th year and Man with the Movie Camera, do you guys have any last thoughts on Vertov?
I'm excited to see more.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see more.
We're just getting started too. Like, these are more of like, I love all these movies, especially Six Part of the World. I really think he's starting to get into his groove, kind of. But these next two, especially Man with the Movie Camera, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do this in the first place. Yeah. But I'm really excited next week. I'm glad we got through it.
I'm glad. Thank God.
We were all just nervous that it was going to stop at some point.
For sure.
If you could tell, but no, we got through it. Yeah, it's working. So
hopefully you can hear us.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know why I said that. Regardless,
hopefully
what were you saying?
See us through the microphone.
Yeah.
But until next time, hope to see you floating through the clouds.